All right, good evening, everyone. It is 4:01. I will call this executive committee meeting to order. First off, we have roll call. We have everyone present with the exceptions of Member Klein and Member Friedrich. Item number 2 is consent agenda, and that's approval of the minutes and recommendation to pay bills and transfers. Can I have a motion? Motion by Member Lehman, second by Vice Chair Rogal. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item passes. Next item is item 3, requests to speak by members of the public or county employees.
We've had no requests this evening.
Thank you. Moving on, we have a presentation on AI by Professor Magnuson, and I was going to ask Mr. Nelson to do a quick introduction.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that. We are beginning our countywide process for employees and to begin education on AI. And as part of that, then we were introduced to Professor Magnuson, I believe by Member Klein. And he gave a presentation to our department heads just a couple weeks ago. And we asked him if he could give a variation of that presentation to this committee this evening. Now, I won't pretend to have all this memorized, but I do have a cheat sheet here for Professor Magnuson. For the 2023-24 academic year, he served as Provost Fellow for the Division of Academic Affairs at ISU. And as Provost Fellow, he assisted the Division of Academic Affairs in understanding and responding to emerging disruptive technologies like AI, virtual reality, augmented reality, and spatial computing. His focus was on understanding what these technologies are, as well as what they are not, while prioritizing technological literacy, pedagogy, ethics, student success, research, and creative scholarship, while preserving the university's core values. In August of 2024, Roy was appointed to the position of Director of Emerging Technology, Instruction, and Research at Illinois State University to continue to expand and improve the university response to new and emerging technologies. And I have to say, I think everyone who attended his presentation thoroughly enjoyed it. So it is with a great sense of anticipation and privilege that I introduce you to Professor Roy Magnuson.
Thank you. So I'll move quite quickly here because I know we've got a tight schedule. But thank you for having me here. I'm happy to continue this conversation afterwards if there are anything follow-ups or questions that you guys have. So this is sort of an abbreviated version of a conversation or of a presentation I've done a number of times. The idea here is to kind of level set this moment that we're in. So why is this important? Why is AI at this particular time different than other times that it's kind of bubbled up over the course of human history? So with that in mind, I think it's really important to identify what AI is and what it's not. Throughout this presentation, you see a bunch of artwork in here. They're all AI generated through a number of different means. If you're curious about the different apps or anything like that, happy to walk you through those processes as well. So the first thing is AI is not new. There's nothing really inherently new about what's happening. It's been going on for quite a long time. If you want to like pull it back, to like a moment, I think we can sort of draw our line from 1950 with a paper by Alan Turing called Thinking Machines. Alan Turing, the famous UK professor, sort of the father of what we would think of as like machine learning and artificial intelligence. But it's been around us for a long time. All those different things like, your Roombas and your personal assistants, right, are all AI. Notice there's a big gap between 1950 and 1997. Obviously, a lot of things happen in there. And one of the important things to know is that if you go back and you look, in the 60s and the 70s, you'll see, writings and quotes from people around AI, scholars that are writing papers. People are convinced that that is the moment. That, in 1960, people were convinced that we're going to have artificial general intelligence. So if you've heard the term AGI has a lot of different ways to characterize it, but it's more or less a computer or thinking computer that can do most or all cognitive tasks by a human. And they were convinced that we'll have AGI in the 60s. We'll have AGI within a decade. Never happened, right? If you go into the 80s and you start looking at you'll see the roots of machine learning and neural networks. If you've heard those things, these are kind of the foundations of what's bubbling up today. In 2015, the data point in there of OpenAI being founded, The only reason I have that there is because I'm going to reference ChatGPT as sort of the, I don't know, just the barometer for our discussion. ChatGPT is one of many, different products at this point. Gemini, and there's Claude, and there's Meta. Facebook has a whole bunch of different products out. But we sort of use it as like the Xerox of AI at this point. ChatGPT is AI, but really it's this much, much broader topic. Of note, though, you see GPT-1 in 2018, 2 in 19, 3 in 2020, GPT 3.5, that's ChatGPT. That's like the thing that came out in November of 2022. That was sort of the nuclear bomb that was dropped. 1 million users in a week, 100 million users. And then I think they're adding 1 million users a day, is what they said right now. And completely changed the world. GPT-4 in 2023. Today, they just released GPT 4.1. Which is essentially a better version, but it's much, much, much less expensive, which is another thing that's growing. The question is, like, where are we going from here? If GPT 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 are essentially exponential growth of a technology, what's happening? What's coming next? I have this slide in here because a lot of the things that you'll see and that we talk about with AI at this moment seem like science fiction, and they kind of are. I don't want to diminish that we really are at this tipping point where there's a kind of a blue sky. There's a lot of stuff that's opening up in front of us, and it's very easy to see the future you've been shown. And that future in science fiction is almost always dystopia, right? No one makes like sci-fi novels about an AI that cures cancer, right? It's just not cool, right? We see the Terminator, we see Blade Runner, right? This dystopic, cyberpunk kind of future. And I'm not going to say that's not a possible outcome of all of this. I think that's definitely on the table, but it's very easy to get tunnel vision into that. But there's also these amazing, kind of parallels and other paths that we want to make sure we consider and discuss. Okay, so why is it different this time? So this is a kind of massive simplification here, and I'm happy to, again, side channel, we can chat and go into like geek out about any of this stuff if you want to. But it kind of comes down to this, sort of differentiation of why generative AI is different. If we look at like older AI, I'm calling this predictive AI. You may hear it as like narrow AI. These are things like classic chatbots or autocorrect. If you went and got, your medical data looked at and they give you like, these are the probabilities of X happening or something like that, genetic scanning, whatever it is, right? These have been around for years, decades, and you've probably used these in your fields, I'm sure, at some point. Those things are not creating new data points. Like they're just inferring something based on the outcomes. They're inferring outcomes based on their existing data structures. That is differing with generative AI. So generative AI is, again, something like ChatGPT, and that's creating new data that's similar to, but not identical to, the data that's trained on. So this is bespoke stuff, right? So things like ChatGPT, Bing, Gemini, Claude, xAI, Elon Musk's company, Grok is a tool. But also, all of those are what we call language models or like chatbots. You go talk to them, right? You can chat with them and type. But there's things like Midjourney, which is an image generator, DALL-E, which is an image generator. That image on the left there is a Midjourney image, or voice cloning, right? So like taking someone's voice and recreating it, and then that can skew off into deep fakes, right? And you can sort of go off into this sort of like dystopic world, right? But they're all essentially the same thing. They're taking in data and they're making something that's similar to but not identical to that data. Okay, so just as a demonstration, right? Here's Sonnet 18. This is the Shakespeare, right? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? And then here's if you asked, I believe I used Gemini here, to write it in the style of Mr. Rogers. Okay, so it's inferring what it knows about Mr. Rogers and writing this in his style. And here's a picture of Mr. Rogers in the style of Bob Ross, right? So this is like surface level generative AI. And you should be thinking, rightfully, why that seems like it's copywritten material, and why is it able to do those things? I think this is a very valid and important thing that we need to like be discussing, right? Like, how are they getting access to this material? How is this being trained? Are people being compensated? If they're not, because we're circumventing and using fair use or whatever ways that are existing, do those things need to be reconsidered? And those are all very real concerns that we need to chat about as a society. Okay, so that's kind of surface, right? So here, let's dig a little bit deeper. So this is PBS Nature documentary, but again, it's Sun at 18. So you can imagine this is like a Richard Attenborough kind of thing, right?
Imagine, if we may, the majesty of a summer's day. Here, nature unfolds more lovely and temperate in its grace.
Okay, so that's AI text and AI voice. That was a voice clone of it's Richard Attenborough. Okay, but you can also do it as an animation, right?
Witness how the rough winds gently play, stirring the darling buds of May in their delicate embrace. Yet even in this splendor, we are reminded summer's tenure is fleeting, its days counted and dated.
That's an AI animation. That's entirely synthetic, what you're seeing there. So AI text, AI voice, AI animation. When I made this is about over a year old now, that animation. I had to app smash. If you haven't heard that term before, it's like using different apps to put it together. So I used 3 different techniques. You no longer have to do that. You can use one app and you can do it almost in real time. That was all pre-computed. In fact, to the point, there are actually things, I'm laughing. There are things where you can subscribe to where you can make your own clone, like your avatar clone, and you can send it to a Zoom meeting. And it'll just go and be you in the Zoom meeting and answer questions as you. It is you in the Zoom meeting, right? In real time. So with that said, here's a video of me. I'm going to explain this process here. And like with that context, just understand sort of where the headspace is.
Hey, just showing off this tool. I do not speak Italian. This is just showing off the possibilities of an AI that can go through and learn what you're saying, match that to a translation, and then also mask your voice and link that up with some sort of facial animation. So this has to be processed, like pre-processed at this point, but pretty soon it probably won't be. So this is going to be a real-time translation layer to things like Snapchat, which will be insane. So yeah, enjoy. Ciao. Mostrando strumento. Non parlo italiano. Mostrando possibilità intelligenza artificiale che può analizzare e imparare ciò che stai dicendo, abbinarlo a traduzione e poi mascherare tua voce e collegarla a animazione facciale. Quindi questo deve essere elaborato come preelaborato in questo momento, ma presto non lo sarà. Una vera e propria traduzione in tempo reale per Snapchat sarà pazzesco. Sì, godere di questa incredibile innovazione.
Okay, so I don't speak Italian. I know I showed this to Leah, and she speaks Italian. Anyone else speak Italian? She said it was pretty close. It's like 95. Some idioms kind of like sort of throw you off just for a second. I was also staring at that. Like I have significantly more gray hair. I was like, like zooming in. I was like, oh man. So what I said, that needs to be pre-processed at that point. That was September of 2023. Okay, so pre-processed mean I took that first 30 seconds and uploaded it to the service just to see what would happen, right? And it took about 5 hours, and it kicked me back that second half, where it was actually changing the like facial animations. It was voice cloning myself and translating into Italian what I was saying. That took like it was multiple hours. You could do 30 seconds at a time. Then there were 4 languages. There are now over 40 languages with sub-dialects. You could do 10 hours at a time. And it's nearly instantaneous in some services. So the idea where I said, like, this is going to be a real-time layer for Snapchat. If you don't know Snapchat, you can imagine just like AR glasses you put on. You put in AirPods or whatever. You're wearing AR glasses. The other person's wearing glasses, and they have like earbuds in, and you just talk at each other. And you're speaking English. They're seeing your mouth move in Mandarin. You're speaking Mandarin to them, and they're speaking Mandarin, and you're hearing English. That's probably possible in basically real time. Like you could hack it together right now. And when I say like things are going to get weird, we don't know what's going to happen. Like to us, like we've never lived as a species without language as a significant cultural barrier. Like that could be very weird and very good in a lot of ways, emergent, but also We didn't think people would use social media to overthrow government. So I mean, like, we don't know like what people are going to do. Again, where do we go from here? We try not to panic, right? So where are we heading? So here's a hypothetical. Is this adoption and research an S-curve, right? So is this what the kind of release of tools looks like? We don't really know. If it is an S-curve, where would we be on that? We don't really know. If it's an S-curve and we're at the top, what does that mean? So that means that things are going to slow down. They could flatten out for any of number of reasons, right? Access to like compute or just like, trade wars, whatever it is, right? I mean, it could be anything that just slows this down. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're looking at tremendously powerful disruptive tech that's going to force us to reimagine everything we know about what we do. I think that's basically a given at this point. If it's an S-curve and we're at the bottom, what does that mean? Which means we're seeing exponential growth, and we're going to continue to see exponential growth for 5 years, 10 years. We don't know, because things could get very weird. So here's some hypotheticals. This is like a hypothetical continued growth at the clip we believe we're seeing right now for the next 5 years. Like this idea of GPT 2030, it's Superman at many tasks, hacking math, protein engineering, coding, right? It's trained on modalities beyond text and images. This is already happening, like video and embodiment, like the idea of like robots learning from space and smell and things like that, right? So brain scans, machine code, astronomical images, JWST, sending stuff in. This is supposed to be may, not I, may possess intuitive domains, aggressive domains where we have limited experience in forming concepts we don't have. This is the only like tinfoil hat moment really in this, but like it's very possible that we could be creating life and we don't understand that, and we will never know. Because we don't really fully understand consciousness in my discussions with people at ISU who are studying this. And we don't know. It's probably not conscious, but it's starting to, like, the emergent things that these things do is you scale compute and you scale and you scale. It's pretty weird, like the things that happen and about processes and the way things quote unquote think, right? These things could work and think 125 times faster than a human, can share with each other, right? If you've heard agentic thinking or agentic tools, agents, that's what this is. So not just one version of ChatGPT, but hundreds of it doing a task for you. Can do 2,500 equivalent years of learning in a day. And then again, scaling them, 1.8 million years of work in 2.4 months. So that looks like weird math. It's just math. That's Jacob Steinhardt. He's a statistician at Berkeley. That's the math. In that scenario, the world is kind of unrecognizable. That is like luxury space communism, whatever we want to think of it. Like, it's like we are, like, it's, I don't know. We don't know what that would look like. So when will we know what's going to happen? So here's just some, again, graphs. The important thing to see here is numbers go up. So the one on the left is GPT-4. This is the version that's been out for a long time. Again, just supplanted today, literally, by 4.1. But this thing called O1, these are another model that they released that essentially can think. It won't just blurt out the first thing it thinks about, right? It'll kind of go through and reason through an answer. Significantly better at math and coding. The thing GPQA, Diamond, these are questions. They're called the Google Proof Question and Answer test. That these are things that it can't know about beforehand, and it's passing human expertise. These are, again, just more benchmarks. The important thing to see here is that once something hits like 90-ish%, it's more or less considered solved. So the SATs, right? Yeah, it's 100% on the SATs in math. The LSATs, and again, the important thing here is that the blue one is pushing into that solved category, right? New models are accelerating. That was O1 that was comparing it against, and they've already released O3 and are releasing O4 really soon within this year. And it'll be really interesting to see with O4, are we seeing growth here again, right? And that's where we're going to sort of be able to guess. Again, trust these people as much as you want to. These are human beings who are, standing to make trillions of dollars. So, but when you hear, like, the CEOs of these companies speak, I would listen and then trust and verify, right? But Sam Altman said, their internal version of ChatGPT is already the best coder on the planet. So they think by December they'll release something that surpasses all human ability at coding, right? And that becomes a question of like, well, do you start to self-reinforce? These are the evolution of the language models. You can see right around 2022, straight line, straight up, right? And we've been seeing this sort of like hockey stick of advances. Again, there's a bunch of random numbers here. The only thing to pay attention to is this one over here. This is called the ARC-AGI test. Seemingly unbeatable. These were the earlier scores. And then OpenAI released a tool that got an 88%. Above 75 on this test is considered AGI. So they theoretically, according to this benchmark, created a general intelligence in January of this year. Now, what did they do when they came out? They changed the test and made it harder, basically, because they thought, oh, well, if we can do that, then we'll have to test it on these things, right? And it's going to continue to move the goalpost for a little bit, and that's okay. We're at this point where I said, like, where these things can self-reinforce, and that is something that people call the intelligence explosion. That if it begins to be able to be the best coder and is used to create code, that means it's used to create AI. And then that becomes a straight line up, right? And this becomes an incredibly, I think, dangerous situation, like geopolitically, because it could do, I mean, it's crazy, right? You're thinking about espionage and all those things. So keep that in your head. But also this is one of these things where it's like, we don't talk about this. This is a tool from Google called an AI co-scientist. Again, it's just a tool they've released. It's open sourced. You can use it as a scientist. And it's an AI tool that you use with your scientific researchers. Why is it important? It's important because they set it on looking at things about leukemia, and it's kicking back stuff that humans have never thought of. And they started trying these things and they worked, right? So that's like, imagine it's like, how fast can we train PhD students to do this research, right? Well, you can make 1 million of this thing, right? And just scale it and say, solve leukemia, right? That's the beautiful future. It's like, that is totally possible, right? If these things can begin to self-reinforce, right? In all of these really good ways. And you want to keep that in your mind when you're like, oh my gosh, international espionage, cyberpunk dystopia. Yes, it could get very weird, but there's all of this amazingly good stuff that could happen. So what can we do? We can't stop. So I have an 8 and 9-year-old. I want to like just kill it, put it in the bag, right? We have to face the challenges and embrace the implications, which are many, right? So security, regulation, bias, privacy, accessibility, the natural resources this requires, like scaling infrastructure. There's going to be tremendous challenges to use this creatively and cautiously, to build understanding and increase literacy. And that's internal and external, right? And that we can embody the opposite of AI. I think there's an incredible opportunity here that in a world where information has a net zero value, which is, we're hurtling towards that. The access is so easy and so low and so inexpensive, theoretically, right? And you don't even have to know what you're asking about. You can just say, what is that animal? It kind of looks like a beaver, I think. I don't know. And you're like, platypus? I mean, it'll infer what you're trying to get at, right? It's not like a Google search. That humanity will be valued because that is the opposite. If you can get all of that stuff from it, it's like, it is the interpersonal things. It is the access to, facilities and face-to-face experiences, human interaction, community outreach. Like, that is so important moving forward. And that the opportunity here, right, is that this paradoxically frees us to be more human. That a lot of what we do, want to agree with it or believe it or not, is algorithmic, right? And these things are algorithms. The algorithmic work that we do every day should and can be passed off to systems we trust. Again, that's a big if, right? So that you can go and do human things, right? And that's a beautiful possibility there. Now, do I trust anyone in this process? Not really. So that's why I think talking like this group, right? We can't wait necessarily for federal or state like government to make decisions. I think it's local. Like, what are we going to do? What are the choices here? What's the literacy look like? What's the outreach look like? How do we teach local businesses, school, children, all those things, and then let it bubble up. So thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I feel it's going to be a much deeper dive, and we'll have to meet afterwards.
I'm happy to go side channel, whatever. I know it's a lot.
Well, thank you again for coming and for posing all the questions that we need to take that deep dive into. So thank you. Moving on, we're going to move on to item number 5. This is board appointments and reappointments. I'd like to move and do 5A and 5B together with the exception, there was a request from the Towanda Fire Chief to have a discussion about the appointment. So I am going to pull the Towanda Fire Protection District appointee, and that will be probably a stand-up on Thursday. So if there are any questions about that, you can answer, but I do need a motion and a second to get 5A and B on the record. I see Vice Chair Rogal, second by Member Abel. Any comments or questions about our other appointments or reappointments? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 6, departmental matters. 6A is Executive Committee. 6A1A, A1 is request approval of a resolution regarding accessibility of the McLean County Government website. Can I get a motion? Motion by Rogal, second by Member Byrne. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Nelson to talk about it.
Thank you, Chair. As detailed in my memo, the Department of Justice has issued a rule which does apply to us, which basically asks us to enforce accessibility for our website to a level called WCAG 2.1, I think was the level here, level AA. That's a very complicated ranking system, the level, and then the A's within it. So what we're asking is that compliance is supposed to be in place by April of 26. So we have basically a year to do this. And it encompasses anything that's on the website, documents, videos, images, captions. So what we're asking for is the current tool that we use for our website, Civic Plus, allows us to select the roles that folks have within their departments for putting stuff on their web pages. And so it is to my way of thinking, the reason I'm bringing this is the liability for not being in compliant. There are fines and penalties anticipated. This isn't going to be one of those where they're going to let it pass. But what we've actually seen in other jurisdictions is that we've seen folks who have vested interest in this area. In Florida, we've seen that they take on a serial litigation approach, and they go target areas that are not in compliance in order to try to find deep pockets associated with this. So our request here is that we change the roles for the departments. Right now, they can create their pages, and they can author them, and then they can publish them. And we have the ability to hold the line on that publishing limit to where they can create, they can draft them, they can put it all together. But what we're thinking would be prudent would be to allow a gatekeeping process on the actual publishing. It doesn't have to be a long process, but we have a couple of people who are trained in the accessibility areas. And they would be able to review those and say, yeah, that one's good to go. They click the button and it's out there. Or, we really need you to address areas 1, 2, and 3. Your images don't have what's called alt text, which describes an image to someone using a screen reader, that type of thing. So that's the change that we're looking for here.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? I mean, ultimately, what we want to do is make sure that everything that's getting published is in compliance.
Yeah, and we've held multiple education sessions already for the folks who do work with the website, and also for documents, and we have more education sessions coming down the road. So we think that there will be a time when we'll be able to expand outside of IT, those folks that we can trust to have properly reviewed the pages. And so, but 1 year is not a lot of time to spin that all into place.
That is true. Any other comments? Yes, Member Byrne.
somebody who uses the accessibility features on websites quite regularly. Thank you for the attention paid to this. Thank you for the detail in doing this. Looking forward to seeing the outcome.
Oh, well, thank you. And we are hoping to put together a group that will include community members to assist us in reviewing our shortcomings and things that we don't know we're missing. So we would welcome your involvement. Thank you.
And Member Rogel?
Just to clarify for all the department people who might be listening, this isn't just, you're not looking at making any editing of content, you're just making sure that they're in compliance and notifying them of what needs to be changed or isn't changed and those kind of things, right?
Correct. Yeah, we're not out to determine what content folks should publish, only the compliance of the formats and standards that are around how it's published.
Great, thanks.
And my understanding is you also plan for this to be very responsive, that you have your staff members ready
Yeah,
to make
we
sure
will
that we
open
have
up a new
timely.
help desk category that is only for getting pages reviewed and published. But there's a lot of work to be done. For instance, departments that have videos that are already posted on the website, those have to go back and be captioned if they're not already, or they need to be reshot.
Yep.
So things like that are going to be time consuming and tedious.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say of 6A1A1, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have item 6A1A2, request approval of a resolution directing the expeditious implementation of the contracted enterprise resource planning system. Can I get a motion and a second? Motion by Member Abel, second by Member Lehman. Back to you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Yeah, the county is contracted to implement the Munis ERP system from Tyler Technologies, and that implementation has begun. In fact, the next item is related to that in the packet. What we're looking to do here is that there are some constraints within the county, staffing constraints, and it can be easy for a project like this to not necessarily get the attention and time that it needs, and not just wants, but needs to be successful. And so we're asking for the support of the board here to help encourage both elected and appointed officials to participate in this process to the full extent, and to help us keep, projects that aren't on time get expensive. And there is significant investment in this project, so we're looking for the backing to get that done.
Excellent. Any comments or questions? This is a system that will help streamline and automate many of the processes that are time-consuming for staff. This is something that Administrator Taylor's been working on for quite a while now, and so this is the idea is that we want to make sure that the board is encouraging everybody, all the employees, to participate and participate in a timely manner. So, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6A1A2, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up, item 6A1A3, request approval of a consulting contract with Sanford Hess Consulting. Can I get a motion? Motion by Byrne and a second by Abel. Back to you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll go to the second page of my memo if you want. We did release an RFP to get some part-time project management assistance with the project that I just described, the ERP project. We currently don't have a project manager internal to the county assigned to help with this project. So there's the time that I can put in, and then we have one programmer on staff who is responsible for maintaining our current financial HR system, as well as assisting with this one. And then we did pick up through the board another part-time person who used to be in that position, who's helping us with technical details. But the project management that this project really requires, it's appropriate to bring in some additional hours to help us keep the thing on schedule. So we received 3 proposals. One from Barry Dunn, and Barry Dunn, we worked with them actually to get to where we're at on the ERP system to date. They were a consulting group and highly qualified. You can see their proposal was the highest of the proposals that we received. Sabot, we have not worked with, but they seem to have good qualifications. Sanford Hess Consulting came in just a little bit higher, but if you dig down then into the RFP, we did request for a certain number of hours to be on site, approximately 20% of the time. And Sabot did not include any on-site time in their proposal. Their person would be traveling from Texas if we were to bring them on site. Sanford Hess has actually worked with this system both as a user and as an IT director in Urbana, transitioning the government into that system. So he's got excellent experience with the process. And his travel is just from Urbana, Champaign-Urbana to here and back. So I'm recommending Sanford Hess in this case.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Nelson? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6A1A3, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you,
Thank you
Chair.
much. All right, moving on to item 6A2A1, request approval of award of RFP for Fuse wheelchair van to Western Reserve Coach Sales. Can I have a motion? Motion by member Abel, second by member Lehman. I'll turn this over to you, Rita.
Thank you very much. In February, my department released an RFP for a wheelchair-capable van so that we could transport Fuse clients to appointments. This was previously being done with personal vehicles, and we no longer wanted to take on that risk. We found that while we've helped a lot of our clients to utilize the current public transit system in a lot of ways, and that's been very successful, there are specific scenarios where an appointment is particularly anxiety-inducing or very stressful for a client, and being able to travel to that appointment with the client is very useful in making that appointment go well and go better, especially because we also have clients who have difficulty navigating some of the public transit systems or where those end up dropping off. So we ended up putting up that RFP. We received 4 proposals. After reviewing the different proposals, we are recommending to go with Western Reserve Coach Sales. They were able to provide us, had a complete bid. We opened it up to both used and new vehicles, and we found that the value of this new vehicle compared to what was listed as a used vehicle and some of the other new vehicles was competitive and still was able to meet our needs. And they also included a couple of things beyond the original RFP, including like some safety equipment that was included in there that we thought would be very useful. So this is our recommendation for this RFP.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6A2A1, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on, we have item 6A2A2, request approval of contract with Carl West Physician Group for continued psychiatric services for Fuse clients. Can I have a motion? And a second. Motion by member Abel, second by member Byrne. Back to you.
This is more or less a renewal of the contract that we started about a year ago with Carl Behavioral Health to provide psychiatric services for our Fuse clients. The contract has gone well. We have both clients and staff enjoy working with Carl's team, and we've been able to really help a lot of our clients. So we created a new contract and request this body's approval with moving forward with this new agreement.
Any comments or questions for Ms. Landreth? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6A2A2, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is 6A2A3, request approval of contract with the ISU Event Management for the Behavioral Health Forum. Can I get a motion? Motion by member Abel, second by member Lehman. Back to you, Ms. Landreth.
We are very excited to be able to bring back the Behavioral Health Forum to our community this year. After reviewing, kind of discussing what we wanted the event to look like and reviewing our options, we decided to pursue a contract with ISU's event management to have our next forum, which for this contract is slated to be November 6th. So if this, we definitely look forward to planning this. Samantha Harrell, who is my assistant director, has been spearheading starting this up, and there will be plenty of opportunities for both appointed and elected officials to help out and volunteer in various ways or attend as well. So keep looking out for more information about that.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions about the Behavioral Health Forum and the ISU contract? Seeing none, all in favor of items 6A2A3, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have item 6A2A4, request approval of a standardized employment contract for the SOC parent and young adult advisory board members. Can I get a motion? Motion by Member Burns, second by Member Rogal. Ms. Landreth.
So this is a standardized contract that we've put together through our System of Care grant, which is a grant that the department was awarded through SAMHSA. The System of Care framework, I've talked a little bit about it before, is a federal grant that's meant to improve the way that communities work together to support not just providers, not just supporting providers to provide the services, but looking at how we as a community, outside of people just providing mental health services, are also contributing to the mental health and the safety nets kind of that we have with each other. One of the things that this grant specifically emphasizes is the involvement of people with lived experience in these systems as being a part of the governance structure for the decisions made in this program or this initiative. And so what we'd like to do is to, what we already have is a parent and young adult advisory board. So it's comprised of parents who've had either right now have children who are in the being taken care of in McLean County for mental health reasons, or young adults who have experienced mental health care in our community. So we already have this body, but something that is supported by the grant is treating these people like the experts that they are and essentially treating them as consultants. So what this standardized employment contract would be doing would be utilizing some of the funds from that grant to create a specific contract of consultancy employment with these board members that we anticipate we would be requesting to be renewed annually.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6A2A4, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have item 6A2A5, request approval of a contract with FBEC for research services related to the Mental Health Action Plan. Can I get a motion? Motion by Burns, second by Abel. And back to you, Ms. Landreth.
This contract is with Dr. Frank Beck with the purpose of being providing data analytics and assessment services related to initiatives brought forth by the Mental Health Action Plan. So we anticipate that this contract would allow us to create data related to initiatives that that the Behavioral Health Coordinating Council is directly espousing, and might also be able to help us to get more robust data around the Frequent User System Engagement Program. So we're very excited we've had great work, great previous experience with Dr. Beck before, and have had really good results. He's done a lot of great work for the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council as well. So it was that was one of the many reasons that we've decided to pursue this continued contract with Dr. Beck.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of items 6A2A5, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up, we have item 6A to B, and that is the 2024 report on mental health action plan, and I'll turn that back over to you, Ms. Landreth.
My last item and only item for information is the synthesis report that was put together about work that the community has done related to the Mental Health Action Plan in 2024. We reached out to members of BHCC to get more information about things that they'd done, and also contributed what we knew as a department and from the county as far as what the county's contribution has been in 2024. We look forward to, we're in the process of revising the Mental Health Action Plan right now, and we look forward to creating a structure in that revision to help support continued good data and reporting from the Mental Health Action Plan.
Comments or questions for Ms. Landreth about this? It's a very detailed report, and I'm glad to see the work that was put in to really, there have been a lot of questions about what the BHCC has been up to. And I think this is one of the best summaries that I've seen of what's happened in the past year. So I really appreciate you taking the time and putting the work in for that. So if you have not read it, please read it. Please share the information. As we rewrite the plan this year, because we are supposed to do it every 3 years, and we are due, I think we're actually shifting from mental health action plan to a behavioral health action plan. The BHAP is what it will be called, I think, moving forward. And I think that the revisions that we're looking at will actually make writing this report even easier.
I hope so, too.
In years to come. So thank you for the information, and I think we'll be moving on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Moving on. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a question from Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you very much. I was just curious about what the timeline is for the revisions and the release of the new behavioral health.
Sure,
action plan.
sure. Based on the calendar, the new plan would start, quote unquote, in 2026. We are just starting to kind of get into the appetizer sessions of getting BHCC thinking about new things and considering where we've been and where we want to go. I anticipate that there will be some sort of draft, probably by the end of May, and I'm hoping to be able to present a final version probably sometime in the fall.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on, we have item 6B, and that is Finance Committee with Member Lehman.
Thank you very much, Chair Johnston. The Finance Committee has 3 items to be presented this evening. Item number, 6B1A is the request approval of an ordinance of the McLean County Board amending the 2024 Combined Annual Budget and Appropriation Ordinance, and I so move.
May I have a second? Second by Member Rogel. Comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6B1A, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next one.
All right, item number 6B1B is the request approval of the ordinance of the McLean County Board amending the 2025 Combined Annual Budget and Appropriation Ordinance, and I so move on this as well.
May I have a second? Second by Member Byrne. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6B1B, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Back to you, Member Lehman.
And 6B1C is the request approval of an ordinance of the McLean County Board amending Chapter 205 Fees, Article 11 Miscellaneous Code Fees, Section 205 to 32 in the McLean County Code, and I so move.
May I have a second? Second by Member Byrne. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6B1C, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Back to you, Member Lehman.
The Finance Committee has no other items to be presented for action this evening. We do have 3 items to be presented before the board on Thursday, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has in the meantime.
Thank you so much. Moving on, item 6C, Health Committee. Member Byrne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Health Committee brings one item for action today. Item 6C1A, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation budget ordinance for Fund 0112, and I so move.
Can I get a second? Second by Member Lehman. Comments or question? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6C1A, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Back to you, Member Byrne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Health Committee has no other items for action. We'll be presenting 2 items to the board this coming Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, item 6D, Justice Committee, Member Rogel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Justice Committee will have 2 items tonight for action. 6D1A, which is request approval of the Illinois Court Technology Modernization Program funding agreement. And I so move.
May I have a second? Second by Member Byrne. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6D1A, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Next up, we have 6D1B, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for Fund 0001, Circuit Court Department, and I so move.
May I have a second? Second by Member Reeves. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6D1B, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Back to you, Vice Chair Rogel.
That's the end of our items for action. We will have 1 item be presented to the board on Thursday, and that's probably the shortest committee assignments that we've had yet this year. Hopefully that will continue, but doubtful.
Okay. All right, moving on. Item 6E, Property Committee, and that's Member Abel.
Thank you very much. The Property Committee does not have any items to present for action, but we will have 1 item for the full board on Thursday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving on, item 6F. Member Klein could not be here, so I'm going to turn that over to Member Reeves as Vice Chair of that committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have no items for action, but we have 3 items to be presented for the board.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on, item 6G, and that is report of the County Administrator, Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Chair Johnston. I have 2 items for action. The first, 6G1A, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for Fund 0007.
Can I have a motion for 6G1A? Motion by Member Byrne, second by Member Abel. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of 6G1A, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up is G1B, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2025 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for Fund 0113.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Member Rogel. Can I get a second? Member Byrne. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6G1B, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Seeing none, the motion has passed. Moving on, item number 7, other business and communication. Our next executive committee meeting is May 12th, 2025 at 4 p.m. If there's anything else from the board at this time? Well, I thank you for your service, and we are adjourned.